I recently had to end a potential relationship after a video call went poorly. I already knew him, and this was a reconnection after a year. We had been talking for about 3 days, and everything was going well until he asked about a certain body part of mine, was evasive about showing his face, and would not tell me his age. This was disappointing because I thought I liked him, but he ended up being a creep. How do men tell when another man might be a creep? Edit. I forgot to mention he referred to his chat generative pre-trained transformer as she. Story 1. Not everyone, of course, but male feminist activists. I would consider myself a feminist in the sense that I believe in equality of the sexes. However, every male feminist activist I have met has ended up being a real creep, usually using it to get close to women and lower their guard. Story 2. Some men are openly manipulative in many situations. I stay away from those individuals. You can tell by the way they talk about controlling anything or getting their way. Story 3. For example, I was working at a hotel for a while. One of the employees, who even had a girlfriend, used the security camera in the hall to zoom in on women's curves. That definitely made him a creep to me. When I told him to stop, he got me fired. Story 4. Activity of gay men I have worked with is not a specific action exactly, but more a lack of boundaries because they are gay, I guess. I have had some experiences where they have basically committed sexual harassment, but because they are gay, it is dismissed as their normal behavior. Story 5. Any person who does not know me or barely knows me and makes an aggressive sexual comment about someone to me, I realize it is something of a gauge of my trustworthiness and sensibilities, but it also demonstrates how little control they have over themselves. Also, any type of offensive harm toward animals is unacceptable. Story 6. Men who try to get women intoxicated and under the influence to take advantage of them. Also, men who cannot form relationships, who constantly pursue every woman they see in public, asking, "Where are the women? Who wants to spend time with someone like that?" Story 7. Intentionally getting women drunk with pushy behavior is taking advantage of someone the moment they are too intoxicated to make good decisions. There is also a strange phenomenon, mostly among late teens and early 20s, where a guy and a girl are best friends. He goes out of his way to guard her from other men by making up lies and manipulating her. The key point is that the guy is friend-zoned, jealous, and clings to a very slim chance in his mind. It is disturbing because the man is faking the friendship and playing a role, while she genuinely believes their relationship is strictly platonic. Story 8. By definition, creepiness is any abnormal or perceived abnormal social behavior. Creepy behavior can include stalking, ogling, and commenting on a girl's body without her consent. It also includes any unwanted touching. Story 9. When I was 17 and working as a cashier at Walmart, I bumped the register with my hips to close it and move on to the next customer. I felt a tap on my shoulder and turned around to see an older man in his 50s or 60s. I asked if he needed help with anything, and he said, "I like the way you dance and move your little hips." I stared at him awkwardly without saying a word until he chuckled nervously and walked away. I never felt so weirded out and gross in my life. To be honest, from then on, when I hear stories of women being harassed, I can honestly relate. During college, I had a classmate who was married with kids. I was leaning over a table, supporting myself with my arms while working on a project. This classmate, whom I barely knew, repeatedly walked behind me during class and gave me a spank along with a grab. That kind of behavior is especially disturbing coming from people you don't know or aren't friends with. All of it was creepy. Story 10. I really hate when other men do not leave women alone. If she says no, no means no. Not yes, I will talk to you in an hour, no. There is something intrinsic about a man trying until he either looks like a fool or gets rejected like a male spider who does not perform the mating dance correctly. Story 11. I get incredibly angry watching videos women post of men who bother them in public and will not leave them alone. I've seen videos of women telling men, "Please leave. I'm not interested. Go away," over and over, and the man just follows them, saying things like, "Come on, you can say hi. I just want your name. You can give me your name, right? Why are you walking away? Just talk to me." And they will not leave the poor woman alone. I hate internet tough guy behavior, but these men tempt me to imagine violence. Story 12. One of the biggest issues is when men start talking to me about women as if they are objects or achievements. Not necessarily gross or sexual things, though that happens, but more along the general lines of acting like women are not people, just hookup prospects. It is a little hard to explain because this kind of conversation can take many different forms, but mostly it is just acting like women only serve the purpose of sex. It is weird and uncomfortable. I have definitely had men talk to me about women in the context of dating or hookups where they did not give this vibe in any way. But many do, and it even creeps me out. Story 13. It's difficult to tell until I find out how they act towards women when there are no men around. I was out with a man the other night who seemed all right, but then I found out he had said to one of the bar staff, "I wish I were younger so I could force myself on you." That is really disturbing. He did not give off any kind of dangerous vibe at all. This sort of creepy behavior is happening all the time, and I am just not aware of it. Story 14. When all they can talk about is sex or how attractive women are. I love sex and think many women are attractive. I don't really need to talk about it, though, and never know how to contribute to a conversation about it. Some man said to me, "I would make love to her so passionately she would be affected for a week." I was genuinely stunned, trying to figure out how he expected me to respond. Story 15. Had a guy who was a friend of a friend tag along on a motorcycle group ride with us. We rode to the beach and I ran into some of my female friends. They invited me to a house party, and I said I would let them know because I might want to stay in and relax. The guy my friend brought along immediately started telling me we should go to the house party with the girls. He said he would drive and was really pushy and desperate. It was crazy how he acted. Story 16. I think being too sexual early on without the woman's consent is creepy in my opinion as a male. I would make those kinds of flirty gestures if the woman I am dating is already my girlfriend, but if we don't have a defined relationship yet, I think you need to read the room to see if she will respond well to those advances. Story 17. Why would you say you already knew him and it was a reconnection after a year if you have never seen his face and do not know his age? Would he not be more accurately described as someone you do not know and have not been connected with? Story 18. Once, I had to take care of a girl who got extremely drunk. Her best friend and I were carrying her to a taxi. As soon as we got to the taxi, the man who had been hitting on her for half the night suddenly appeared and said he would make sure she got home. I replied, "No way, pal. This girl is going home with her best friend. Now leave." Story 19. I'm going to say it, but guys who are obsessed with getting a woman purely to satisfy sex alone, something is off when I meet those men. I used to work with one and had to take him out multiple times just to protect the younger person I worked with. He would even make a scene when he found out someone was a minor, and I thought, seriously? You tell me all you want with her is sex, without telling me that. Story 20. Men who make random sexual comments about strangers definitely creep me out. Men over 25 years old who talk about high school students as attractive. Anyone who behaves fundamentally differently in mixed company than when it is just men. Story 21. So many people are somewhere on the weird spectrum, and there are many different ways one can be weird. To a certain extent, we are all weird about something, but there is a tolerable range to the degree of oddity that is socially acceptable. Some individuals have no social skills, some have zero ability to empathize with others, many people lack intelligence, and many others are just mean. Certain uniquely gifted individuals exhibit all of the above. There are many reasons why people are born with or develop these antisocial characteristics. Story 22. I had a friend who used to try to sneak, grab, pinch, or touch every woman as he walked by. I said, "Hey." He said, "That's how you get them to remember you. We are no longer friends." Story 23. My girlfriend and I are older electronic dance music fans, and we love dancing. We often go to events that are essentially held at clubs. Seeing how some men treat women at clubs is downright disturbing. Single women will come to hang out near us, sensing a safe space. I often see men hovering nearby who have followed them there. They will sometimes apologize and say that this guy is following them, so they are just trying to act like they are with us. It is crazy to me how oblivious some men can be. It is downright creepy. I understand that some men have bad intentions, but many are just clueless and cannot take a hint. I wish they could see how that behavior affects a single woman just trying to enjoy herself. Story 24. Calling women any form of female makes me uninterested in you as a human and marks you as a weirdo. Also, this is obviously a huge, gross thing. I worked retail once, and an old man came up behind me and my friend, pointed to our coworker about 20 feet ahead and said, "If she were the Pied Piper, I'd follow her anywhere." I'll never forget that. We both just uncomfortably walked away from him. You don't say weird stuff like that to a stranger. Someone else walked up to me about the same coworker while she was on a ladder and said, "Got great sights on this aisle, huh?" Staring right at her. Why be gross about people like that? Story 25. Anything that indicates he is not mentally stable is probably my biggest red flag. Also, erratic behaviors or violations of social norms. Story 26. The worst example I have ever personally experienced was a coworker talking about how attractive our manager was. That made me want to leave immediately. Story 27. Men who become overly sweet the moment an attractive woman enters the room. It is full of insincerity, and I have seen many women fall for it. Story 28. One of the clearest signs is that they try to impress me with their sexual history very early in the conversation. It has happened a few times where another man suddenly starts telling me about women he has been with. I do not even ask my best friends for details about their sex life. Why are you telling me about a woman you clearly harassed in a bar as if I should be impressed? Story 29. I was at a public concert recently and had been chatting with an older fan who was next to me in the crowd. A young mother with her baby walked in front of us across the street. The man turned to me and said, "Hey, do you see that new mom over there? Have you ever seen anything so impressive in your whole life?" I almost gagged. She was very attractive, but did you have to say it that way? The man lingered around the stage after the show, trying to talk to the lead singer, who was a woman. Total creep vibes. Story 30. Being overly friendly but trying to present it as just friendly intentions without making a clear move. If a man won't stop chatting, checking in, and trying to spend time in your personal space, some awkwardness is likely to occur. This applies on social media as well as in real life. Story 31. If a man has to tell you he is safe or respectful to women, then he is not. Performative feminism is a major red flag. A male feminist does not have to tell you he is a feminist. He should just be respectful. Overly defensive or persistent behavior is another red flag. A green flag is if a man has genuine platonic friendships with people of other genders and does not attempt to flaunt this in any way. Safe male identifying or presenting people generally are not performative with their behaviors and do not feel the need to advertise their qualities. Also, calling out other men on their creepy or predatory behaviors, but not in an attention-seeking way. Story 32. Drugs, alcohol abuse, gambling, stalking, cyberstalking, low intelligence quotient, cryptocurrency, racism, bigotry in general, strong opinions about public figures, celebrity preoccupation, talking a lot about childhood, preoccupation with the way things used to be, and so on. Story 33. The guy trying to correct or shame the behavior of other guys looks performative and like an attempt to gain social status by throwing someone else under the bus. And it usually is. The guy who has no expression and nothing to say to you, but suddenly becomes Mr. Personality when a woman enters the room. Related, the guy who is aggressive to everyone in the room except the one woman he is laser-focused on. Being awkward is fine, we have all been there. Awkwardness is a display of humanity. People who get creeped out by that usually lack social skills themselves and get unsettled by someone going off script. The guy who makes the odd lewd joke or comment is usually fine, provided he does not then criticize other guys for doing the same or pretend to be sensitive when talking to women. You either are that guy or you are not. Do not be two-faced. It tends to become creepy when they actively upset other people with pranks and boundary testing. Special recognition to guys who betray a really negative attitude toward women's sexuality. While some everyday frustrations can lead to minor sexism, when guys say things like, "You can smell other guys on her breath," there is something seriously wrong in those guys' heads. Story 34. I'm an open-minded libertine, so I think people who fixate on creepiness are really just responding to some difficult-to-face part of themselves. My catharsis comes from seeing broken people in an alienating world trying to meet their needs rather than labeling them as creeps. My heroes are John Waters and Todd Solondz. My avatars are men hiding in toilets and disgraced gymnastics coaches. I think we should entwine the entire nation in a sweltering fusion as we merge into a great being of flesh. I believe the world needs more prurience, vulgarity, desire, and obscenity, and the only reason censors exist is to sweeten the prize by making it forbidden. Story 35. When someone starts making more casual or subtly misogynistic comments, it usually signals a Freudian slip revealing what they are thinking. I have seen instances where individuals who made such comments went on to act on them in the following weeks. Story 36. Men who push to know about a girl's relationship status. I have a friend who works at a gym, and men will ask her, "Are you happily married? Do you feel safe? If you ever need anything, let me know." Like, bro, relax. She's not going to be interested, and she's married and fine. You're not Superman. Story 37. Cut off a former coworker and notified the shelter that he was picking up newly homeless and vulnerable women to take out on dates, then to a hotel for sex, and leaving them in the morning. Story 38. My marriage is being taken over by my ex-wife's affair partner. What man in their right mind would go after a woman with 3 kids who is married? It is despicable. It is morally wrong and just gross. I have so many questions. He is not all to blame though. It is 50-50 between the affair partner and my ex-wife, but this post is asking about men, so I will stop right now. It leaves me at a loss for words that go far beyond creepy, that there are guys out there who mess with married women. Story 39. Guys who introduce female coworkers as their work spouse. Extra points if she looks away when he does it. Even more points if one of them is married. I will not call the person a creep, but I do find the behavior creepy. Story 40. I do not see that kind of behavior from people I meet, quite literally. There is not much I can say except that it is impossible for me to call out behavior that I do not witness. Story 41. Liberal and feminist men are the worst variety. The majority of sexual deviants and rapists, the majority of people with poor hygiene, and the majority of individuals with generally unpleasant personalities fall into this group. On top of all that, they are usually out of shape and weak as well. If a man is very far left politically, it is almost certain you will have problems. Story 42. Close talkers. Men who invade my personal space. Men who use the urinal right next to me in a public bathroom even though there are 5 other open urinals available. Autistic behavior including stimmying, extreme social discomfort, extreme social awkwardness, and lack of eye contact while conversing. Public expression of negative emotions such as rage, frustration, yelling, and screaming. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.